Welcome to another Wartales video. Okay, so this video is going to be 10 top tips to help you survive and thrive in the land of Wartales. They are designed to get new starters off to a little bit of a good start and just give you a few tips to make getting into the game just that little bit easier. Okay, so I've got a party here. We've been roaming around for about 7 days or so, so it's still quite early on in the game. You start at about halfway through day 1. Just sort of roamed around a little and done a couple of quests so far, and that is where we are up to. So what I'm going to do is just talk through a couple of quick little things. Now, by day 7, we are up to the second pay period for my group. So I've just had a message pop up saying that my wages are due, and if I mouse over in the top right hand corner, it tells me that 96 crowns are due in wages. So to pay wages, you can't do it up the top there or via the message, and what you do is you head into your camp down in the bottom, on the bottom right hand side, right click on your campfire, and you can pay your wages here. So you can pay your wages and eat some food at the exact same time. So tip number 1, you can pay them. Now, if you rest at an inn, you can actually delay the payment of your wages. However, it just means that you're going to have 2 wage payments that happen closer together. So try not to delay it too long, otherwise you'll have a big chunk coming out when you need to. Okay, number 2, food. How much food should I carry around? So as a fairly new party, what I'd normally recommend is try to carry about 2 or 3 days worth of food with you. Now, 2 to 3 days food is going to last you plenty of time to loop out, do a contract or 2, and then come back into town and pick up more food. You will also pick up food from crates, possibly from merchants, and when you kill wild animals around the map as well, they will drop meat. So obviously pork for boars and wolf meat for wolves. So you can pick up food around the map in a couple of different ways. Also fishing, the new profession, allows you to get some extra food as well. Carrying more than a few days food at the beginning of the game, like quite early on, and particularly before you get a second pony, so I do have a second pony in this run, what you'll find is that you start running out of carry space, and each pony carries about 40 pounds, so I'd only have 72 available here without that second pony. So 2 to 3 days food is generally enough for keeping your troop going and getting back to town. Later in the game, carry more days just so you can stay away from town for longer if you want to. Give yourself a little bit of choice. Alright, professions. Tip number 3. Okay, so for professions, you will be able to use things like this cooking pot. I'll just try to move it around so you can see it a little bit better. And when you want to use an item, whether it's this or you want to steal something with a thief, that kind of thing, you'll quite often get a little pop-up saying, select who you want to do the action. If you don't have a cook assigned yet, you can actually right-click on someone and it'll bring them up, and then you can actually select what profession you want them to take from there. So you can, as I said, do it whilst you're performing the action here, or you can actually just go in and select the companion from the top corner and assign a profession up there as well. You do lose all of the experience you've earned when you switch professions, so do make sure that you're not switching all your characters between professions too much, because profession bonuses are very, very nice, so try to keep them going. The cook constitution bonus is absolutely huge. It's probably the pick of the lot in terms of you're going to level it up just by creating food anyway, so I highly recommend that one on your tank. Alright, so that is the professions kind of overview. I think in a couple of the other videos I've covered how you get access to all the different professions, but basically you go into a forge for a blacksmith, the alchemist for alchemy, a thief you just try to steal something, for a cook you make the cook pot, the tinkerer you start with, and mining you just have to find something to mine. There's also fishing, being a scholar, and one more that I won't explain any further in this video. Okay, so once you have professions, it's what you can do with those professions is the next step. So with the cooking pot, if we right click on that and we select our cook, you will see that you have some recipes here and you need to collect different ingredients for them. So I can make 5 bread here because I've collected 5 wheat, and I've got some salt which I would have bought from town, and I can just select how many I want to make, and off we go. and our profession, our cook cooks them up. If you are lacking some resources, one of the things you might be wondering is, where do I get more? For this, look around town, visit merchants, and you can just try to buy them most of the time. For particular things like pork, if you go and fight some boars, you will receive pork as a reward for winning that fight. So I really like that the resources are actually tied to the region that you're in and what you're doing. I mean, fighting a pig to get pork makes total sense. I don't think there's anything too difficult about it. You will notice with resources at different points in the game that you want more of one or less of another, that kind of thing. Just tailor your activities to what you want. So if you start running low on leather, go and fight some wolves and some boars, and you will get some leather from that as well. The tinker starts with a few recipes available to them as well. So things like a tent, and you can see I don't have a tent in this campsite at all yet. So if I'm having a look and going, oh, I do want to make a tent next, I do need to get some rope, and rope is something that you can either get from merchants or the prison. And so eventually, as you play the game, you'll learn where you can get these different resources and which ones you need for the different things. Once you do craft things in your workshop or as the chef, they do have a weight associated with them, so just make sure you've got a bit of spare carry weight too. Though usually the thing you're crafting weighs less than the components and the ingredients that make it up, so that's good. Alrighty, the next thing I wanted to talk about is knowledge. So this is tip number 5 now. Knowledge is what you see in the top left-hand corner up here. At the moment, I've got 120 out of 130 knowledge points. Now, you can earn new knowledge in a couple of different ways. So if I have a look at this particular profession, the tinkerer, for instance, if I crafted a baton, I would actually get some additional knowledge for my very first craft of that item. I've crafted lockpicks before, so I don't earn anything new for them. If I craft a torch, I earn a new recipe here instead of acquiring more knowledge. So when you're getting ready to craft things, or when you're choosing what you want to craft, you do want to have a little bit of a look and see whether you are getting any bonuses and kind of choose accordingly. Now, the reason that you want knowledge and the value of knowledge is that that is what you use to unlock things in the compendium. So by crafting particular recipes, and again you can see in here, crafting the baton I get some knowledge, crafting the torch I just get some a new recipe. Within the compendium, the way that you actually learn new recipes is by spending knowledge. So at the moment I have 0 knowledge points available. When I get to 130 knowledge, I'll be able to select learn on any of these new weapon recipes or armor recipes, and I'll be able to learn it from there. Some recipes do actually require professions to have reached a particular skill level. So to create the reinforced battle plate here, I do need to have a blacksmith apprentice. So for knowledge, and what we'll do, we'll just get out of this campsite very quickly. There's a couple of different ways to earn it. So one is by crafting different things. The second is by discovering new locations. So I've never been here before. As I walk past, I gain some knowledge, and I now have a knowledge point, which I can spend in the compendium on whatever I like. I generally recommend saving your knowledge points until you know there's a very specific thing that you would like to craft, and until you have the resources to craft that particular thing as well. So just by mousing over this, I can see what it's going to cost me. I can make sure I've got the resources, and then I can hit learn on that. That way you're not kind of wasting time or resources, and knowledge is one of the most valuable things in the game for progressing and making sure you can fill the gaps in your squad that you haven't managed to fill through, random weapon drops or from merchants or anything like that. So acquiring knowledge is a really, really good thing to be able to do, and definitely something you want to work on consistently through the game. Alright, tip number 6, combat. Okay, so combat in this game is turn-based, and you will want to be making sure that you're positioning your people. And I'm actually just going to pause this video, or cut this video until I'm in combat. We'll do a quick rest. Alright, and we are just going to go and pick a fight with some people in the mine. Alrighty, so with combat, what we're going to be looking at is just kind of a quick overview of how the combat works and functions, and then pretty much going from there. Okay, so within combat, it is turn-based, and you can see who's going to have their turn down here in the bottom left-hand corner. The very leftmost character is who's having their turn now. Now, within Wartales, the combat is a very different turn-based system to most games, where you actually get to choose which of your squad mates you want to move when. And at the start of battle, you do get to rearrange your people to be wherever you want your squad mates to stand. In a fight like this, with 3 of them over here, what I'm actually going to do is kind of mob these 2 and try to get rid of them before these guys then really join the fight. So in combat, where you're positioning your starting troops is very important. If I left one guy over here, for instance, he's likely to get mobbed by all 3 and not be very successful. Okay, so moving your characters around is one element of it. You can see who's going next just by the little exclamation mark there. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, load up on his skill. I can run forward and hit both of them at the same time. So I'm going to do just that. And then we are going to poison both of them as well by using a little bit of Valor. Alright, so if I can deal another 13 damage to this guy, he's going to be taken out of the fight before he even gets a turn. I don't think I've got anyone that can actually deal that much damage in one turn. Ooh, except this guy, 14 to 17. So let's run up and let's take him out of the fight. Alright, I am just going to speed through this fight, and once done, I will continue the recording. Okay, so I've sped through the combat there just to kind of get it over with a little bit quicker. That was the main combat tip, was just the repositioning. The next one I wanted to talk about was how weapons can change skills. So you'll see that we've picked up a 2-handed axe here, and in this particular group I've actually got quite a heavy warrior balance. So the next thing the tip number 7 is looking at the different skills that your party have based on the weapons that they equip. So if I just open up a warrior here, he's a sentinel, or level 3 warrior, and he has a +1 axe with slash. If I change that to this particular axe, I will lose the ability to slash for 6 to 8 damage, and I will gain bravado, 8 to 10 damage, and forces them to engage. Okay, so forcing someone to engage is obviously great if you're putting this on a tank character. An enemy is engaged with someone else, you run up, hit him with this, and this warrior now takes aggro from someone else. It does a little bit more damage because it's a strength of +4 compared to a strength of +1. If they were both the same strength, they'd probably do a similar amount of damage. So this is not an axe you want to put on someone who is not a tank, obviously, but this guy, he's a cook, so that axe will actually suit him very, very well. So you can change their skills by changing their weapons. I think I've got one more warrior here who's got a slightly better iron axe, which gives the same ability as this weaker axe. And that is probably the best example that I've got right there. I do have a dagger in my bag which does poisoning, or a whirlwind, devious whirlwind, which hits a number of units. So even rangers can actually have single target or AoE attacks with them as well, which is great. Makes each class just that little bit more flexible, I think. Okay, tip number 7, starting skills. Alright, starting skills. So Wrath, this skill over here on the right, Taunt, and Heal, or First Aid, sorry, are a few of the first couple of skills that your characters might start with. One of my biggest tips is look for a couple of people that have First Aid. So you never want to only have one person with First Aid in your team. It's probably the skill that I would say you definitely want to have on at least 2 characters, preferably 3 if you can. It is a skill that scales really quite well later into the game. With your starting skills, do try to make sure that someone with First Aid is not someone who is going to get killed first, because you cannot use First Aid on yourself first and foremost. You can only use it on other people. and it does cost valor points. So all of these starting skills cost valor points. So make sure that you save a couple if your team are at risk of getting knocked down. Wrath is a really valuable starting skill. Getting to launch just sort of another free attack on an enemy and kill them, as well as getting Fury, is really, really valuable. But you would generally prefer that on characters that are not already engaged. So using it or having it on spearmen and warriors, that kind of thing, is they're generally the best classes for it. Alrighty, next tip is going to be someone died. Should I reload? Okay, so your squad mates are going to get hurt in this game. They will lose their armor, they will get injuries. If you treat the injuries, well, you need medicine for that, and I'm actually out of medicine here. They can heal up in town as well, but your characters will more likely than not die at some point during the game. I would not recommend reloading. What I would say is treat characters as a little bit expendable. Losing a character, particularly at levels 1, 2, 3, are really easy to replace. At that point, they are not the kind of be-all, end-all of your squad. Once they start getting to level 4 and 5, their survivability is actually quite high, just because they've got sort of more constitution naturally, and you've got better equipment by that stage as well. So you're less likely to lose them as they get to level 4 and 5. Even if you do, what I would recommend is still trying to persevere and keep going. Leveling someone else up is actually not that hard, and more likely than not, you can actually get a character with a better set of skills than the character that died to suit your actual squad. So it's very rare that you're going to build every character perfectly on your first round, and so by build I mean, you know, the selection of skills that you make at the different levels. When you lose a character, what you should actually look at is, can I get a character that will fit my squad better than the person who died? So when you head to town and buy a replacement, which is going to cost you both influence and gold, you might be able to find someone, as I said, who suits your squad more than the squad mate that died. So don't worry too much about whether you are going to keep everyone alive or not. I would say that natural rotation of people in and out of your squad is going to happen, and definitely makes for some exciting fights at times. There are moments where it's actually worth sacrificing somebody so that the rest of your party can live, and you might want to do that every now and again. All right. So that's tip number 9. Tip number 10 is repairing. So you'll see after a fight that a lot of characters have lost their armor, and you can either hit repair and repair characters individually. This guy takes 2 to repair because he's got both his rags as well as his shield. Or you can right click on your raw materials in your bag, and it will tell you how many raw materials it's going to consume to repair everyone's armor. Now, repairing armor is actually a fairly expensive thing, so I've got probably about 80 gold worth of tools here, so 20 tools at 4 gold a piece, or if I'm purchasing them 5 gold a piece, so I would have to spend 100 gold to have this many tools, which, as you can see, is actually a huge chunk of the available crowns that I have right now. So try only to repair your armor when you think it is actually necessary, and you will save yourself a little bit of money that way. On particularly hard fights, I would generally recommend making sure that your tanks are topped up at least, so I would repair this guy just so that in the next fight he's just going to live that little bit longer, and it'll help the others stay alive if I don't have to keep switching people in and out of combat. You can try to maintain your armor in combat by letting the people that have already lost their armor get hit, but you don't want them to drop too low, otherwise you need to start spending medicine to heal injuries, and medicine is a lot more expensive than repairing armor is. So really, with repair armor, just kind of make sure you're not going too over the top with it, and you should be okay. Alrighty, so there were 10 tips there. How you pay people, how you feed people, what professions you have, what you do with the resources that you acquire, how to earn knowledge, a few couple of little combat tips, starting skills on characters, how weapons change skills, what you should do if somebody dies, and repairing armor. So I hope that's been a good little overview. I hope some of those tips just kind of help you get started with your squad in Wartales. Good luck, and as per usual, if you have any questions, feel free to ask on Discord, and if I'm around, I'll pop in and answer. Thank you very much. See you soon in Wartales.